Hey book lovers, I'm Elise and today we are finally going to talk about my worst books of 2023. I read quite a few books this year, well last year, it's now January. Honestly, there were quite a few that I didn't like, so it was pretty difficult trying to condense this list into just 10 books, but I managed to do it, and for the most part, I was able to get them in order of, how much I dislike them. And of course, general disclaimer, I said this in my video last year, if you love any of these books, I truly am so happy about that because I definitely believe that every book has an audience. I was just not the audience for these books. With that said, let's jump into the list. Book number 10, The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. This honestly surprised me because if you don't know, Erin Sterling is the pen name for Rachel Hawkins when she's writing romance. But writing as Rachel Hawkins with her thrillers, I enjoy. When I got to The Ex-Hex, I was confused. I don't want to get into the whole synopsis of all of these books. I just want to tell you what they are and why I didn't like them. I did not like The Ex-Hex because it was way too light and fluffy. The audiobook irritated me because the love interest was Welsh and the narrator did not speak with a Welsh accent. Like, that was a huge missed opportunity. And for being an adult romance, this book felt very YA, like very cheesy, very light and fluffy considering everything going on, and just like hokey. I don't know, I didn't like it. Book number 9 is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. This book, okay, first of all, I liked the diabetic representation. I do like that Ali Hazelwood has a variety of representation in her books when it comes to sexual preference, chronic illnesses. Aside from that, what was this book? I read this in almost one sitting. I actually listened to the audiobook when I was driving downstate to go to a holiday party for my workplace. Nothing felt unique, nothing felt, I don't know, I didn't like it. I didn't like anything about it. The third act argument stuff I didn't like it just, none of it, I just Book number 8 on this list is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I put this book off for a long time because I honestly didn't think it would be for me, and I probably should have listened to that intuition because it wasn't. I think if anything, this book was really depressing and I kept waiting for it to feel less depressing or to feel like going through all of this with the character was worth it, and it never got to that point. So I really did not enjoy this book. Book number 7 is A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. This one also kind of surprises me because in general, every T. Kingfisher book that I have read, I've really enjoyed. But this particular story just didn't do it for me. There was a little bit of the T. Kingfisher humor in there, which I do greatly enjoy. I love the humor that she puts in her books. This story in particular, I didn't like it. I honestly don't remember a whole lot about the book except little pieces here and there, but I do recall it was just kind of strange and not in a good way. It seemed a little ridiculous by the end of it. Book number 6. This book made me mad. I felt duped, and that is The Drift by C.J. Tudor. First major complaint about this book, it takes place in 3 different POVs. 2 of the POVs were so similar that for a good chunk of the book, I had a really hard time trying to differentiate between the characters because they were both a vehicle of some kind, like a bus or a cable car that was stranded in the cold, winter, snowy landscape. There's multiple characters in each POV. There's multiple people dying in each POV. So that was just really hard to keep track of. And then we have this third POV that is kind of like stationary in one location, that kind of like knows things that the other POVs don't. And then we get to the twist. And the twist, to be honest with you, really pissed me off because I don't like when a book, I don't want to say makes me feel stupid because that's not really what I'm trying to say, but I did. I felt stupid. I felt duped. I didn't appreciate it. So the twist just really made me mad and it put a sour taste in my mouth, and overall I did not like this book. Book number 5, The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. This book I thought I would really enjoy because it takes place, well, there's 2 timelines, there's 2 POVs. So one of them takes place in like the 1800s, and there's this apothecary that caters to women who need help like against a man, typically against their husband or their boss, something like that. They're not good men or they're beating them or mistreating them in some way. And then in the present day, you follow this woman. I didn't mind the past POV so much, but the present POV, there were multiple things that it just angered me. Like the decisions that were being made. I'm like, girl, why? Why? And her boyfriend, husband, fiance, whatever he was, just, I was just angry for most of this book. I did not root for the characters in any way. And honestly, I'm having a really hard time trying to remember like how this book turned out. So clearly it was not very memorable for me. And I just remember being very upset with the characters and literally every decision that they made. Book number 4 is Good Bad Girl by Alice Feeney. This book did not feel like Alice Feeney, and I've heard many people say that. It felt more like a family drama than like a thriller. To be honest, I was pretty lost for a lot of the book. I knew where we were at in the beginning, and when everything was wrapped up, I'm like, okay, sure, I guess that makes sense. But like throughout the middle, I'm just like, I wasn't enjoying my time. I felt like I was just kind of like watching these lives take place and just kind of like, I was a spectator and I didn't really care either way. All right, book number 3. So I'm gonna be honest with you. I at first did not put this book on my worst books of the year list. And then I started watching some other people's worst books of the year and they had it on there. And like listening to what they were saying, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I remember now. I hated this book. And I actually have a vlog, a dedicated reading vlog where I only read this book. And I have a lot of thoughts and feelings. Probably should have rewatched that before doing this video. But yeah, that book basically made me break up with Grady Hendrix. This book is not about a haunted house at all. That's strike number 1. Strike number 2, Pumpkin. What? And I'm so glad that I did not listen to this on audio because so many people are complaining about how the narrator portrayed Pumpkin's voice. If you don't know, if you haven't read the book, Pumpkin is a puppet, like a sadistic psycho killer puppet. So I do wish that this book had been maybe marketed a little bit differently or maybe called something other than, you know, How to Sell a Haunted House. I went into this wanting a haunted house and what I got was like a crazy psycho puppet and a dysfunctional sibling relationship. It was a rough time. And I know for a fact I was way too generous in my rating of this book. Book number 2 is Bunny by Mona Awad. This was another one that I put off for the longest time because of all the hype surrounding it. And I've heard from a lot of people, you're either gonna love it or you're gonna hate it, and I hated it. But to be fair, I think that I don't have the level of literary intelligence that is required in order to appreciate this type of story. I'm sure it is very clever. There's a couple things in here that I did pick up on that I'm like, okay, that is kind of clever, but then it made the story make less sense. And there are rabbits, obviously, in this book. That whole situation wasn't really explained, which made me mad because, you know, if a book is weird, that's great, but I'm the type of person that needs an explanation at the end. Like, you can be as crazy, as wild as you want to be throughout the book, but then I need to know why. I need to know how. I'm doing an investigation here and I need some answers. And this book did not provide a single one. And we are finally to my worst book of 2023. This is the only book this year that I rated 1 star. It is a repeat author, and that book is 19 Claus and a Blackbird by Agustina Bastarrica. This is a translated work. I believe the author is from Argentina. The original is in Spanish. This author also wrote Tender as the Flesh, which I read last year or the year before. I can't remember. I want to say it was like 2022. And that was kind of like one of the first books that I read kind of getting into the horror genre, which I'm really a fan of now. And I loved it. It was creepy, it was gross, it was, you know, like mind-boggling, and I really enjoyed that. 19 Claus and a Blackbird is a short story collection, only Agustina Bastarrica's stories. There are 20 stories in this book. There was only 1 story that I kind of liked. The rest of them I either hated or didn't understand or literally could not comprehend. It did not work for me at all. If there are 20 stories and I only like 1, that's not a good sign. So that is the crowning book in my worst reads of 2023. Thank you so much for watching. I will probably tomorrow be posting my best books of the year, so keep an eye out for that. Let me know what you thought of these books. Do we agree on any, or do you think I'm crazy? Please remember to like and subscribe, and until next time, bye.